Okay, we're live on YouTube.
Got it.
Thank you, Haley. So welcome to everyone. This is our regular meeting of council. It's being live streamed tonight electronically, June 7th. So the meeting is now open. So I want to welcome everyone. We have our staff with us tonight, and welcome to Haley, who is helping us for the first time to facilitate the meeting, and to welcome to the any of the public who are watching us. So the meeting is now open, and if we can have a moment of silence, that would be great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. My first motion was by Councillor Carroll and seconded by Councillor Jennings. The council agreed to move items 8B from information item to action item for discussion. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Also remind all of council that if you do have any disclosure of interest, you can declare it now or anytime during the meeting. And we have a motion moved by Councillor Jennings, seconded by Councillor Straight, that the regular meeting of council agenda dated June the 7th, 2022 be approved. I guess I should say that as amended, right? All in favor? That's good, thank you. That's carried. Now moving on, we have a motion. It was moved by Councillor Straight and seconded by Deputy Reeve Vandermeer that the minutes of the regular meeting of council, May the 17th, 2022, the special council meeting of May the 24th, 2022, and the special council meeting of May the 31st, 2022, be approved as circulated. Any additions, deletions, everything's fine? All in favor? Those minutes are all carried then, thank you. And I'll ask if there's any business arising from any of those meetings. Seeing none, we're going to move on. We have no delegations tonight for our regular meeting. We're going to go straight into the first report of our municipal officers, and there we have Steve. So welcome, Steve. I'm going to hand this part of the meeting over to you. You have the first report.
Thank you, Chair. So this report before you tonight is for the purchase of a half-ton. As council is aware, we had a report previously to Committee of the Whole looking for permission to sole source on this. We went to 9 dealerships, 6 locally, 3 in West Canada. We received about 20 prices on fleet. We have used, new, prices ranging. Staff has detailed everything in the report about this. There was requests for electric, hybrid, diesel, and gas. Diesel and electric are both back ordered right now, pretty for quite some time. We did receive 1 hybrid pricing. That was the only one we received. No other dealership could provide pricing on that. It was quite a bit higher, but it's listed in the table attached. And staff just has broke out a couple different tables for council to review, see different breakdowns between new, used. Obviously, the warranty on new vehicles are quite a bit better, and that is why staff is recommending new. And then there's additional $2,500 for a back rack, beacon light, and a toolbox. Hopefully staff is able to reuse the radio and beacon light off of our old truck that we'd be replacing. And everything else is in the report. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Yes, Deputy Reeve Vandermeer.
Thanks, Reeve, and Steve, thanks very much for the report. Very detailed, lots of information in there. I do see certainly the 2019 Chev 1500 is an awful lot cheaper, but considering warranties and the lifespan of the truck is only 7 years on brand new, I question of the 2019, the lifespan on that's going to be 7 years. I would doubt probably not. So I very much would agree with staff recommendation for the 2022 F-150 Ford. And I think, anyway, I have some personal comments about Ford versus Chev, but I won't mention those. Thanks.
Just one general question, Steve. If we have been going to say the hybrid, is it 5,000 and 5,000 in funding that we could get? Because I know that we could have got 5,000 from the county, right? If we got one of those vehicles, and then is there not funding from FCM also? Again, I'm not sure if that question should be to you or to Allison, but just wondering, that's just a general question.
Yeah, I did put a little bit in the report pertaining to this. It is outside of the price range for these, so we wouldn't be eligible for that. Of course, Treasurer Allison could correct me on that if there's anything I'm missing, but it has put us above what the pricing came in at. And it is not on the IZEF eligible vehicles for that as well.
Thank you. Any other questions then? Seeing none, I do have a motion, reasonably long. I'll read it. And it was moved by Deputy Vandermeer and seconded by Councillor Straight, that council directs staff to purchase a 2022 F-150 STX from Smith Falls Ford for $56,985.60, including non-recoverable HST, and that council allows staff to utilize up to an additional $10,000 for the equipment reserve for the additional cost of the truck, and up to $2,500 from the equipment reserve for the purchase of a back rack, a toolbox, and the beacon light if required. And that council approves staff to purchase truck ranking 2 if ranking 1 is unavailable, truck 3 if trucks 1 and 2 are unavailable, and continue down the ranking until a truck is purchased up to a maximum limit of $60,000. And that staff report back to council with information on which truck was purchased for information. And if no further questions, all in favor? That's all carried. Thank you, Steve, for that one. And moving on, the next are the reports of the committees. And I do have a motion. It was moved by Councillor Carroll and seconded by Councillor Jennings, that council approve the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of May the 17th, 2022, and approve the recommendations contained within. Anything on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none. We have another motion moved by Councillor Jennings, seconded by Councillor Straight, that council approve the minutes of the regular Recreation Committee meeting of April the 26th, 2022, and the special meeting of the Recreation Committee of May the 16th, 2022, and approve the recommendations contained within. All in favor? Those are carried. Thank you. Moving on, we have no petitions tonight. Our bylaws, the first one was moved by Councillor Jennings and seconded by Councillor Straight, that bylaw 3911/2022 being a bylaw to adopt an alternate CEMC be read for a second and third time and passed, signed and sealed this 7th day of June 2022. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. The next one was moved by Councillor Straight, seconded by Deputy Vandermeer, the bylaw 3912/2022 being a bylaw for pound service agreement with Andrew Parent be read for a second and third time and pass, signed and sealed this 7th day of June, 2022. All in favor? This bylaw is carried. Thank you. The last one was moved by Deputy Vandermeer and seconded by Councillor Straight, that bylaw 3913, 2022, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement for the Heritage Drive site plan, be read for a second and third time and pass, signed and sealed this 7th day of June, 2022. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
Bill, you have a question?
Just a question.
Yes.
The attachment though for schedule was actually through the pound, just to see is what I see.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So what is the question again, Councillor Jennings, please?
Just making sure that that moves over. I mean, I have no problem with the bylaw, just making sure that it moves over because it was attached to the Heritage Drive.
Yeah. Thanks. Okay. Before we confirm the proceedings, Allison or Haley, do we have any questions from the public? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm jumping there. We have no motions and notices of motion, but we did have one correspondence move forward as we did amend the agenda there. And that's B, and that's the request to council for Katie Hamill on the early on, yes, yeah. So do we have Katie with us tonight, or is someone going to speak to that?
So this isn't a delegation, this is just a request from the group to utilize Rosedale Hall. We do, in our current agreement, we allow 4 free rentals. This is to request for free rentals throughout the year for the program that they provide there for the early on program.
Yes, and just a question, how often do they meet?
Once a month.
Once a month.
Yeah. I did drive by the other day and it was really amazing the number of kids who were out playing on the playscape from the group. It was just so great to see, I think. So, yes, Councillor Straight.
Yeah, I've over the last couple of meetings that we've had with the Recreation Committee at the Hall through the presentations, I've had a couple of instances to speak with Katie in regards to this. And this event is certainly well attended by people within our community, and I think that it's something, in my opinion anyway, that I definitely support and would like to continue doing. I think it's great that it happens, and that's what the hall's all about. And to be able to ensure that the kids are getting the benefits is a great result. So I'm definitely supportive of it.
Thanks, Claus.
Yeah, thanks, Reeve. I believe they have been there before COVID. They were there on a fairly regular basis early on, and they're a great group. They look after the hall very well. They're very ambitious leaders there, so I think this is a great thing to do.
Thank you. Councillor Carroll?
Yeah, I didn't mean to chime in. I mean, I've been to that group with my own kids. So I mean, it's obviously good. We've been doing it free for a long time. And also I found out today that sometimes they're able to provide a little bit of extra funding for when they have extra funding left over to the halls that have donated to them. And actually just this past April, we were given $150 from them too as well. So I think that's even though we're giving it away for free, they've actually given us some or given back some money too as well when they had the funds to do that. So I mean, obviously this is a no-brainer yes for me too as well.
Yes, Deputy Reeve.
Yes, sorry, Reeve. I just had another thought. I'm wondering if there's some way we could clean out the back room of excess stuff which we will never use again, to give these people a little bit of storage, because they have to haul everything in and haul everything out for their event. And there is space back there if we clean it up.
Well, I I wouldn't think there's a problem there, but I think that we should speak about that at another time.
I think Allison had a,
Or we can leave it to staff and look at it and come back with a report, but I'll go to you, Allison, please.
Yeah, so we are looking at, for the hall in general, there's upstairs items that we have to address as well. Because we're a little short staffed right now, that was going to be part of the summer student position, but because we've moved that position to the front desk, it's a little delayed, but that is on our radar to get to Rosedale and address a couple of the areas.
And the question then back to you, Allison, regarding this this discussion. Do you need consensus from us, or would you rather somebody make a motion and we'll vote on this?
A motion to approve free monthly rentals to the early on group for the 2022 year would be great.
Okay, I'll just look for a motion that's been moved by Councillor Jennings and seconded by Deputy Vandermeer.
Councillor Jennings has been trying to ask a question.
Oh, I thought you were moving it. Sorry, Councillor Jennings.
No, I kept putting my hand up, but so I definitely support this. It's just if we could check into whether or not the county does fund it, because my understanding is other municipalities are receiving funding for this stuff from the county, then it could go towards the cost of our custodial, et cetera. But I definitely support it 100% if there is no funding anyway to give to them, but it would just help us offset our costing, especially when it gets into air conditioning and heating through those seasons. So, but I do support it 100%. So I could put a motion forward, but.
Yeah, so this is going to be moved by Councillor Jennings, but maybe Allison, if you could just kind of reword the motion before we vote on it, that would have the condition that we would request staff check out the possible funding from the county. So if we could just put that into the motion, that would be good. Before, I think that we did have a seconder by Deputy Vandermeer, but I'm going to go to you first. Councillor Carroll, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to chime in there because I did have a quick chat with Katie and the bookkeeper from Crow too as well today, a little bit just I guess inquire about that exactly, Councillor Jennings. And they told me the bookkeeper said that they get all the funding. That's where they get all the funding from the county, and then they divvy it out from the Crow side of it. So that when they've had to put out money, it comes out of the Crow budget. So when they've been sort of made to or requested, they have to pay for it. And that's why they try to do this if they have some funds left over to try to give to the halls that did donate the time, some of the money that they're able to then give to. So that was sort of the answer that I got back from the bookkeeper and Katie today. So I just thought I'd share that as well. So
thanks, Jeff. So Allison, would you please read this motion then and we'll vote on it?
So the council approved free monthly rentals to the early on group for the 2022 year, and that staff request if there's any available funding through the county for this. And I think Jeff, on our part, maybe we'll contact the county and just see if there's anything for us, if that's
double check all work. I'm just stating what the information I have, but I'm not in any disagreement with going to the county and double checking that 100%.
Okay, so that's been moved and seconded. I'll call the vote. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you to Katie for bringing this to us and everybody's input. So we're going on then. We have no other action items, no information items, no unfinished or other business. And before we adjourn, do we have any questions from the council? From the yes.
Sorry, Chair. I have no questions in relation to the council agenda.
Okay. Now
Christy, Haley, do you have any questions for the council agenda?
We have no questions, no.
Okay, thank you then. So I have a motion that was moved by Councillor Carroll and seconded by Councillor Jennings that bylaw 3914/2022 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its regular meeting held on June the 7th, 2022, be read a first, second, and third time and passed, signed and sealed this 7th day of June, 2022. All in favor? And that one's carried. Thank you. And it was moved by Councillor Jennings and second by Councillor Straight that this meeting do now adjourn at
23.
6:43, thank you, PM until June the 21st, 2022 at 6 PM or until the call of the reeve, subject to need. All in favor? Okay, that's carried, thank you. Does anyone need a break before we go into the next meeting? Okay, then we'll just take a second and change over all our paperwork and we'll continue. Okay, so welcome everybody. This is our committee of the whole meeting. It's also being live streamed electronically, June the 7th. And this meeting is now open. I'll remind all of council again that if you have any disclosure of interest regarding anything on this meeting, you can declare it now or anytime during the meeting. And tonight we do have a delegation with us. Are the people with us yet?
Yep, just a moment.
Okay. We'll go ahead and we have the first motion. It was moved by Councillor Carroll and seconded by Councillor Jennings that the committee of the whole agenda dated June the 7th, 2022 be approved as presented. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So we do have our first delegation here. We have, I believe we've got 3 people. We have Claude and Aline Perrault. Although I think I just see Claude there. And we also have Andrew Howard, who I believe is representing Claude. So welcome to both of you. And I'm going to turn this delegation over to the 2 of you. We have 10 minutes for you. And this is on 43 King Street. So welcome to both of you. And I'll turn it over to whoever wants to start.
Morning, Council. Thanks for giving us this opportunity to speak to the matter regarding 43 King Street. The reason we made a delegation this morning or this evening is because we got the information with respect to 43 King Street on Friday afternoon, and we don't necessarily agree with the decision or the direction provided by staff. And be that as it may, our position is as follows. When we applied for the severance, one of the first things we had to do was we had to get a minor variance. And the minor variance was predicated on the fact that my clients wanted to build the house that they intended to build. And it's a passive house, which I'm not sure whether or not there's any in Montague, but the passive house required certain things in terms of setbacks. So our first step after getting the severance consent was to make sure that we could build the house that we wanted to build. And that house is a passive house that had certain setback requirements, which we indicated to the planner and the committee of adjustments was effectively the reason we were building the house we were building was because it was a passive house and we needed to change the setbacks to get everything that we needed in order to build that specific house. Just before we got to the minor variance, we were talking to the planner, and he indicated that we should really look at switching our plans. So originally our plan was in conformity with your road bylaw and road entrance bylaw. However, based on the past history of the committee of adjustments and the direction of the planner, we reversed the plan. So effectively taking the driveways that would have been touching each other in the middle to putting them on the outsides of the lots. Now, I've taken the opportunity to drive through Adironto, and in driving through Adironto, we've only really been able to find two driveways that were effectively side by side. One of the things that the road entrance permit bylaw does not take into account is the fact that you have both the rural and the settlement area settings. And I think as it relates to the bylaw that was previously passed, it only reflects the rural setting, whereas where you're looking for infill, it is a different set of circumstances. And I think the bylaw should be clarified or amended, or in this case, council give direction to say that the driveways don't have to be side by side because the setting is different. And if you look in Adironto, there's only two driveways that are side by side the way that your bylaw is set out. One of the things that we were discussing in terms of planning was to maintain the fabric of the community, and in maintaining that fabric, it apparently or appears to be that you would want to have driveways not side by side and further apart, especially where there's low traffic volumes and low speeds, as opposed to your rural setting where people will be driving faster and you want to limit the number of entrances off the highway. Effectively, that is our presentation, unless you've got anything else to add, Claude. And so today we're looking for the council to make a decision with respect to the road entrance bylaw, to make an amendment to allow us to build the passive houses that my client intends to make, and to continue developing in an ecologically and forward-thinking manner.
Thank you, Andrew. So we will be discussing this after when we come to our reports. But before we do, I'll just ask council if they have any questions for either of you. Okay, then I see no questions for now. Thank you then for both of you, Andrew and Claude, for coming to do this. And as I said, it'll be coming back up again in under the reports of our officers, our municipal officers. Thank you then.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to move on. And the first report of our municipal officers is going to go to our contracted planner, Forbes Simon. And is Forbes with us tonight?
So Forbes will be, he's on with another municipality right now. So if I can ask committee to just defer the item until Forbes is available, that would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, that's not a problem. Then I think what we could do is go straight into 3B. And then that's going to be Steve. Yes, thank you, Steve. I'm going to hand this part over to you, and that's again on the 33 King Street entrance.
Thank you, Reeve. Yes, so this report brought forth to you tonight is pertaining to 43 King Street. Staff has placed a report on the agenda tonight for you guys for information, or for the decision. And basically, as the delegate has stated, they have laid out their intentions. Staff has followed the policy as approved by council, and staff cannot approve any entrance that does not conform to the policy. So in saying that, council can, notwithstanding, pass as per the delegate's request, but staff does not have that ability. So therefore, the report has stated such. And that is a report brought forward tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. And yes, that's correct. So I'm going to open this up to council for any questions and comments. And I do have a motion, but I don't have a mover and seconder down here for this one yet. So I'll open it up to council for questions. Yes, Councillor Carroll.
Thanks, Reeve. Thanks, Steve, for the report. I mean, I think the report is exactly what the bylaw, which I personally maybe don't necessarily agree with, and I think that's one of the hardest parts about this decision too as well. So the first part, obviously, Steve, thanks for this report. You followed the bylaw. You did exactly what the staff is required to do or requested to do, and that's what that states. As far as the proponents are looking for the change, I mean, I do agree. I think it's the right decision to allow those entrances. It fits the look of the area, in my opinion, too, as well. And I'm in favor of allowing the entrances and allowing those people to build the house that they want to do, especially the type of the house they're doing. And I think also I'd like to encourage us to look at that bylaw. We don't have a lot of these. I think that's one of those things where a lot of us maybe not have even seen this before, because a lot of us is in that rural area, and this really doesn't conform, I don't think, and I think that opening it up and having a discussion at a later date about it too as well. But I think we should allow these buildings to go ahead. Thank you.
And part of this motion is to review the bylaw. So when we come to it, we'll read it, and that is part of it. So Deputy Reeve Vandermeer.
Thanks, Reeve. And Steve, again, thanks for the report. In allowing this minor variance, what really is involved? Like how complicated is this that we can't allow this minor variance?
Can you handle that question now? Oh yes, Allison.
So this isn't the minor variance. This is just for shared or not shared entrance. Correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, on this side of things. So it's just based on the bylaw that we have in place from 2013. And as Mr. Howard did state, it is more directed towards rural areas as opposed to our urban areas. And as Councillor Carroll had stated, we maybe haven't seen this a lot because most of our growth and items are in the more rural areas. So the recommendation from staff is to look, and from the contracted planner, is to really look at that policy and bring forward some modernized changes to encourage growth in our urban areas. So at this time, it would be council directing staff to act notwithstanding in accordance with the bylaw 3307/2013 and allow 43 King Street to have a shared entrance upon the completion of the conditions though. So the conditions aren't completed for the whole planning process, but upon that completion that would be approved.
So I suspect this motion then obviously is going to be changed. So Allison, maybe if you don't mind, before we vote on it, I'll come back to you and you can read the motion as you feel it should be. But first, I'm going to go to Councillor Straight.
Yeah, thank you very much, Reeve, and I too kind of agree that I think that the biggest thing is changing the bylaw. I guess my question is so that we don't run into, I guess, in regards to what the staff have written, we don't want to allow any other residents to follow the bylaw according to dispute the shared entrances, if they are any. And I understand where Steve's coming with that and where staff's coming with that as well. Is there a way that, I don't know how soon these entrances have to be put in? Is there a way that we can go ahead and amend the bylaw within the next couple of council meetings that would allow this to proceed without, adding that caveat for urban versus rural into the bylaw that would allow this to occur without, shockwaves that could affect us from previous decisions, I guess is my question.
Yes, Allison.
So not to put Mr. Simon on the spot, he did just sign into this meeting. Forbes, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Sorry, Forbes, not to put you on the spot if you can or cannot answer this. I'm just not sure how far out on the 43 King and completing the conditions that whole file is on, and whether we can actually amend our policy prior to the entrances being completed.
So thank you. So the application did receive approval from the Committee of Adjustment. and that the laneways were found to be staggered and consistent along that street. Though Stephen has indicated that it's contrary to your policies, and I accept that at face value, no issues. In an urban context like this, my opinion would be that the separation of entrances isn't the same sort of significant issue that it can be in a rural context, particularly in an urban area where you've got 50-foot lots. And so the committee made the decision, but it does require entrance permits, and that's where the application has been held up. It's being approved. It just needs to get some relief from the entrance bylaw if council's willing.
Councillor Straight.
Yeah, so I guess just to follow up on that, thank you very much, Forbes. So before these permits are granted, can we go ahead and modify the bylaw at the next meeting? And then following the approval of the modified bylaw, grant the access permits for this piece of property?
Yes, sir.
That's what I would like to do. And then that way it's above the board. It modifies the bylaw, so we're not in the same position again anymore. And, we don't have any effects from any decisions that were made in the past or anybody else that may have come with the same problem. So I don't know if that's appeasing the staff or not, or the rest of the council, but if we could do that, that would, I think, would be a great solution.
Thank you, Councillor Straight. And as you've mentioned, Forbes, these lots are, so many of the lots there are the 50-foot lots. But the other issue too is, again, comparing rural to urban, the speeds are a lot slower, which makes a big difference too.
No.
So, Alison, I'm going to go back to you, if you don't mind, please. I'll get you to read this bylaw or this motion the way it should be written. And after you read it, then I'm going to be asking for a mover and seconder because we don't have one yet. So Alison, if you could just read this motion, please.
So in Councillor Straight's recommendation, or kind of that would be the recommendation of staff as well moving forward, is if we can change the policy itself ahead of time so that we're not dealing with potentially other shared issues. The recommendation would be that council direct staff to bring a revised bylaw 3307-2013 to the June 21st, 2022 meeting for approval.
I think so, yes. So could I ask for a mover and a seconder for that? So it's been moved by Councillor Carroll and seconded by Councillor Straight. And no other discussion? Yes, Councillor Jennings.
So does that delay this request?
Yes, Alison.
I believe there's a number of conditions, but Forbes, maybe you can speak to that.
I don't think 2 weeks is going to make a difference, Councillor. I think getting a favorable consideration of the proposed entrances is important, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the applicant, but I wouldn't think that 2 weeks is going to cause a tremendous delay in this. So I believe the applicant is represented here by Mr. Howard. He may wish to speak to that, but I wouldn't think that it would be a significant matter to get this addressed properly.
And Mr. Howard did speak to this prior to you coming to the meeting.
Okay, I apologize, Reeve.
No problem. And I think that Andrew, you're still with us, and if you wish to speak, that's fine. But otherwise, I'm going to call the vote for this motion.
Well, I was going to ask a follow-up.
Yes, sure.
So just because Jeff had brought forward about allowing it and then amending the bylaw, so just wondering about if you could do the two to have it happen at once, so that the bylaw is being amended at the next meeting, but this is going to be approved now, and then it gets approved at the next council meeting as well. Just wondering.
Forbes?
I would suggest that both matters are brought forward at the same time at the next meeting.
Okay, I don't see any opposition. I see most everybody's heads nodding, so I think that it's time we can move on. So this was moved and seconded. I'm going to call, did you have anything else?
Well, did you have a mover for this?
Yes, we did.
Okay,
It was moved by Councillor Carroll and seconded by Councillor Straight.
okay.
Okay, all in
Good.
favor? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. And I'll just delete this one that I have here, Allison, and I'll sign a new one. Okay, thanks. Thank you for bringing this to us there, Steve. And the next one, we're going to move on. I guess we'll go back to the first report. That's 3A on our agenda. And Forbes, that one is going to be yours on the Lot 4 Rainbow Valley Drive site plan agreement. So I'm going to hand this part of it back over to you. Thank you, Forbes, and welcome back to the meeting.
Thank you very much, Reeve. It's always a pleasure. 4 Rainbow Valley Drive is a vacant lot that was created a couple of years back. It's now being proposed to be developed by Mondura Homes. It's owned by Adrian Scouten. It's waterfront property. We do have an approved site plan that shows the development of the property in accordance with all the zoning regulations. The site plan's been circulated to the Conservation Authority and to Parks Canada, and we're in a position now to consider the approval of the site plan agreement, which is before you. It is subject to site plan control because it is waterfront property, and it's straightforward. So there's no issues or concerns or objections that have been raised. It's a good development proposal with a new house on a vacant lot, meeting all your setback requirements. And the site plan is simply to ensure the protection of the shoreline features and to remind property owners that development within 30 meters is not encouraged. That's all I have to say, sir, at this time. If there's any questions, I'm happy.
Any questions? Seeing none, I do have a motion. It was moved by Councillor Jennings and seconded by Councillor Straight that the Committee of the Whole supports in principle the site plan application submitted by the owners of the property known municipally as Concession 2 Lot 29, RP 27 R9591 Part 4 Rainbow Valley Drive, and that council passes a resolution authorizing the clerk administrator and Reeve to execute a site plan agreement with Adrian Scouten to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage on the subject property. All in favor? And that's all carried. Thank you. I believe this is everything that on the meeting for you, Forbes, unless, does Forbes need to stay with us now?
Not unless he wants to.
You're always
And
welcome
as
to stay.
much as I enjoy my time with Montague Council, I am double booked tonight, and so I'm going to jump off of this and go to Lanark Highlands. The joys of the internet, hey?
Great.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much, and enjoy the rest of your evening, Council.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Forbes, and thank you for the previous report, for all the quick details and helping us to move these issues.
It's always my
forward
pleasure. Always
very
my
efficiently.
pleasure.
Thank you,
Thanks
folks.
a lot. Good night. So then we're going to move back to C, and that's going to be back to you, Steve, on the greater RFP award.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so staff's report tonight is about grader replacement. Staff, in conjunction with Tay Valley, completed a joint RFP for the purchase of 2 graders. We both talked considerably with the 2 contractors. Received pricing a year ago budget wise, and it was in the 400 range when we talked to these dealerships last year. As they stated in the report, Tay Valley had one in 2018, similar to what is on the report tonight. They purchased that for $320,000, and now it's for the base model. It's at $450 plus attachments and warranty. Although it is a significant increase, it doesn't appear that these prices are going to break anytime soon. This is going to be the new pricing, it seems, moving forward, and staff will have to adjust accordingly with our asset management plan. In the asset management plan, it states the Volvo was ready for replacement in 2019. And the John Deere would be 2031, going by the roads needs study replacement and the asset management plan. Staff has broken everything out for council's consideration in the report. There is provisional items, which includes swings, front plow, the warranty. Warranties broken out in the report for council, and different options for purchasing of this. Council could decide to surplus either grader. Staff has kind of detailed where it would go, price range. The used market is up. If the council was willing to look into that market, there has been a dealership or a company close by which purchased a 2018 grader with about 2,000 hours on it, and it went for about $350,000, just for councils to know. So the price is up on everything. If there's any questions in on this, I'd be more than happy to speak to any questions, and the financials are all broken out in the report itself as well.
Yes, Councillor Straight.
Thank you very much, Reeve Dobson, and thanks, Stephen, for the report. Yeah, unfortunately, COVID, right, and equipment and shortages and everything else, everything's going through the roof right now, and that's just unfortunately what it is. I guess my biggest question to you is in regards to the 2015 John Deere grader. 15 more years of service of that thing. I got a little queasy when we say that, considering the issues that we've had with it, and knowing that we've had driveline issues with it continuously, almost since we got it. I don't know if we got a dud or whatever. I'm not 100% sure, but I guess my question is by the time, is there an opportunity to reduce the price if we were to look at even purchasing two of them? I know it's a lot of money and everything else, but by the time you trade the two of them in or you sell them, that's you've almost got $200,000 there. We're sinking $8,000 a year minimum into that one grader. 5 years worth of warranty times, another $40,000. The costs just start to extrapolate there. And if there was a savings potentially that could bring that gap down between the two of them, then maybe there's something that we should look at. The Volvo one's definitely worn out, and it really obviously needs to go for sure. But the 2015, thinking that it could last until 2030, I certainly would question that, unless you're telling me otherwise. I think Deputy Reeve Vandermeer brought that up as well last time when it was having the issues in the same matter, and I don't know if there's an opportunity to look at a couple and maybe come up with a variance of only a couple $100,000 and end up with two new pieces of equipment. I'm not 100% sure, but I'll let you speak to that.
Through you, Chair. I appreciate that, Councillor Straight. I was looking back on the report, and that 15 years, it was confusing in the way I wrote that in the report. I apologize for that. So that was the lifespan recommended. So it would be 2031 would be the replacement, not an additional 15 years. So just a 15-year max lifespan. On the pricing, that's kind of why we jumped in with Tay Valley, hoping we would have saw some kind of reduction in the pricing. if council wishes, it's definitely something staff could get, reach out to Brant on and see if there would be much of a savings. I don't anticipate too much savings going with two, but it's certainly something I could look into for council if they so wish.
Deputy Reeve Vandermeer.
Yeah, thanks, Reeve and Steve. Yeah, thank you for the report. Councillor Straight brought up a good point. Or 2015 right now, and expect it to last another 15 years. Because I think we've put quite a bit of money into that one, that 2015 already, haven't we? Steve, have we spent some money on that one?
Yeah, last year was a high year. And one of the tables attached, I believe it's table 1 or table 3. It's in there somewhere. It does indicate the pricing last year for this unit. Staff is hoping it was a one-off. There was one that was more user error, but it was definitely expensive last year on the maintenance side.
Yeah, well, that is kind of my concern. So to look at possibly getting 2, and you won't get 2 for the price of 1, that's for sure. They're pretty strict on their pricing right now on this type of equipment because they know they can get it. My other question is off the cuff. Is there any assistance through the government, grants or low interest loans or whatever? Because I see you're running a bit of a shortfall by purchasing this new grader from your budget thing, are you not? First question, is there any grants available, and is there any low interest rate loans available to finance this?
I'm going to go to Allison for this.
If I may. So right at the moment, I'm not aware of a grant. We always have available to us different borrowing avenues, being a municipality. I think right now the 5-year loan is a little over 2% that would be available to us. I think that keeping in mind that those $8,000 a year, though, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's like grader blades. Those are general maintenance items as well that go into it. It's not that if we have a new one, we're still going to be changing grader blades and doing those type of things as well. I think also with the change in the interest rates and the Bank of Canada making changes, I think you may see a bit of a supply and demand change coming, similar to what we're already starting to see in housing, where it may be beneficial for us to have this discussion on potentially the John Deere grader next year, or even, come December, to see what happens. Just with the Bank of Canada changing those interest rates, we may actually see a bit of a change in the market. Obviously, I don't have a magic ball to tell that, but I just feel like they're trying to stop that inflation. They're trying to change the market a bit. So I wonder if it may be beneficial for us to wait and still have this discussion maybe, but maybe wait a little bit to see what happens in the market as well.
I would.
Yes, go ahead.
Thanks, Reeve. I would agree with Allison, because looking at the price breakdown from Brant Tractor Limited, our budget amount was 400,000 and we're 516 total amount recoverable. Your shortfall of 116,000, correct, Steve? So I think if we could wait to see how the economy goes and maybe get in on a low interest loan or something.
Councillor Straight.
Yeah, great point to bring up there, Allison. That's a great way to look at things, and I guess that's why we spitball some things around the table here. So yeah, let's keep our eyes open for opportunities, and we'll see how things turn out. I guess my last question is the optional front one-way plow. Steve, is that one of them has it and one of them doesn't right now? Is that correct?
So right now, our Volvo, which completes one of our routes, it does have it. That would be the recommendation to replace it, but staff does understand the significant cost of that.
Yeah, so on top of the 516, we do have to spend that extra, essentially $40,000 for the, which is fine. That's just to make sure I understand. Thank you so very much. Thanks for the report as well.
Any other questions? So Allison, I have a question for you regarding the motion that I have in front of me should we still vote on this? And because it sounds like we'll have to, it sounds like this one we may, or we just reword this one or just vote on this the way it is. And if this one is defeated, then we have another vote, another motion.
Yeah.
Okay, so this motion here then is, was moved by Deputy Reeve Vandermeer, seconded by Councillor Carroll, that staff be directed to award the purchase of a grader to Brandt Tractor Limited for the total price of $555,128.26, including mastless wing, 5-year powertrain warranty, and one-way plow. And that staff be directed to declare the 2002 Volvo grader surplus upon delivery of the new grader. All in favor? Opposed? So I'm saying, I'm asking then, all in favor of this motion as it is? Yes. Okay, that's carried then. Thank you. And do we need another motion for this, Allison? Yes.
No, Chair, through you. So this grader is not supposed to be delivered until 2023 at some point. So
Yes.
I think that before we say to utilize reserves, we'll see what the market does and what's available to us for a borrowing rate, and we'll bring something back
Yeah.
at that time that will best suit us.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks then. Then moving on to the next one, and that's the Winter Grit Award. And Steve, it's your report also.
Thank you, Reeve. So our winter grit supply contract awarded, or it finished up at the end of this year. So staff did tender out for the supply of stone dust material for the 1-year term. Staff did put it in as a 1-year term just due to the market, as we've kind of been discussing with the last report. Arnott Brothers Construction was low. They were low by $125 over Kavanaugh Construction. They are getting their supply from Kavanaugh and Acon Construction. So both suppliers that they are using are reputable companies, and they have great aggregate sources as well. So staff is recommending to proceed with Arnott Brothers, who were the low bid. All references that they submitted, I did reach out to all of them, and they did. They have done great work with this material before. Staff did note that in there as an option that we are allowed to use the winter, utilize the winter maintenance operational reserves if required, just in case, as it is a bit more expensive this year. If we were to run into significant costs, that we could go into that. Our current treasurer did set that up, and it does have money in it for this instance. So that's what staff is bringing forth for you tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Any questions? I do have a motion. It was moved by Councillor Carroll and seconded by Councillor Jennings, that staff be directed to award the request for quotation 2022 PW06 to Arnott Brothers Construction Limited for a total cost of $50,244, including non-refundable HST, and that staff be directed to utilize winter maintenance operational reserve if required. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, Steve. And on to you, Allison. The next one is yours for the septic inspections.
Thank you, Chair. So council did see a report back in April 5th, in relation to the downloading of the septic inspections from the health unit to the either municipalities, the county can do it, the RBCA, the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority, or we can do it ourselves if we have somebody who is a designated septic inspector. So this is more of an update in the sense that, so we have followed up on the options that were presented on April 5th. We have completed a letter The Reeve has signed it and we have submitted it to county. I don't believe it's been to county council yet, but they are to, it is to go onto the agenda to see if there's any other interest. At the time, I think we were the only ones to submit something to the county in relation to this. The option 2 was to explore hiring an additional township employee. So we are looking at an option of bringing on someone who is certified. We're going to try that avenue for the next little while to see what other options we can come up with. Explore an agreement for shared services with Drummond North Elmsley. I was in contact with Drummond North Elmsley and they don't have the capacity to offer these services right at the moment. I believe that their CBO may even be taking these on, so it's going to be a heavy workload. And then the last was an agreement with RVCA. So the recommendation this evening is just staff is going to look for an alternative solution. If we sign on with RVCA, it is a 5-year term. We are very hopeful that potentially the county will take this over. So I don't think the first option that we'd like to go with would be signing a 5-year agreement. So at this time, we're asking that council would approve for us to prepare an agreement with RVCA in the event that there's not an alternative solution that we can bring forward prior to September. We are working actively on some other items and we are hoping to bring something back to you prior to then. But in the event that we can't, that we will go ahead and work on an agreement to bring back in September.
And Allison, if we go ahead and do approve this agreement with RVCA, and we do, and then later we choose another option, there's no penalty or anything, is there?
So this isn't approving an agreement. I would bring an agreement back in September for council to discuss. This is just basically saying we will go that way if we don't have an alternative solution. Because
is it not either the end of September or possibly October that is the deadline for the health unit to be doing this?
October 1st is the last date that they would have be taking in inspections, but they will complete the inspections that they have until I think it's the 31st of October. So yeah, so we will have to move, and that's, again, we will bring something back. This isn't us approving an agreement. That's just a draft general agreement that they've provided. We would want to have some stipulations put into our agreement if we have to go that way, but we are actively looking at alternative solutions and trying to work with our neighboring municipalities to come up with something.
Great, thanks. Any questions from council? Seeing none, I have a motion that was moved by Councillor Jennings, seconded by Councillor Straight, that council approve staff to prepare an agreement with Rideau Valley Conservation Authority for septic inspection services to be brought back in September 2022 for approval in the event an alternative solution is not realized prior to. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, Allison. And back to you again on the council meetings.
Thank you, Chair. So staff is bringing forward this report to have the discussion with council on potentially going back to in-person meetings. We have had a number of ratepayers request it. They either don't have internet or have very poor access to internet to make available the meetings. There's a couple of options. Our council chambers can be open to in-person meetings effective our next meeting if we choose to approve it. Our council chambers have not been fully equipped yet. It's about halfway done. We're trying to work with the contractor to get it completed. So it would be back to prior to YouTube and Zoom meetings where people, the public would be allowed to attend, but we would not be electronically live streaming. There potentially could be other options that we could look into. We do have microphones, so we could set up a single unit that could feed for people to be able to still come on in some sense to make it work until the council chambers are completed. Option 2 would be to move council meetings to Rosedale Hall. Clearly no internet, but it is a bigger space to allow for more people and to have a more minimum distance from each other, or a greater distance from each other. Option 3 would be just to continue with the electronic meetings until such time that the council chambers is equipped and set up to have the broadcast and in person. Currently, staff has no concerns with any of the options. We did meet and we don't have concerns with meeting in person. And we don't, at this time, we don't have any issues or concerns. So it's open to council on what decision and option they'd like to move forward with. The only recommendation that staff is going to strongly recommend is that our recreation committees, committee of adjustment, those that they can start to meet in person again. We realize it may not be electronically. The recreation committee are not elected officials. I think that potentially being up on YouTube could deter people from maybe joining the committees in a sense as well. So we would like that they would have the ability to meet back in person and be able to plan events in person. Sometimes it's easier.
I'm going to go to Deputy Reeve first, but just a question, Allison, is there a need for us to separate the two here now?
Chair, through you, absolutely not. It was just in the event that council chose to keep electronic meetings. I know that the committees are really asking to get back to in person. So I wanted to keep that recommendation separate just in the event that council decided to stick with electronic.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like, and I'm just one, and in case we decided to keep in case council decided to keep the council meetings as virtual, then are we allowed to go ahead and approve the other committees going ahead and having live meetings?
Yeah, Chair, through you. I don't see any issues. There's nowhere that it has to be live streamed. If the committees don't have an issue getting together, there's ample space at the Rosedale Hall for them. I don't see where there would be an issue.
Deputy Reeve Vandermeer first.
Hey, thanks, Reeve, and thanks, Allison, for the report. I'm personally looking forward to meeting back in person again. I know doing through the internet is convenient. You can just jump on the internet and you're there right away. You don't have to travel or whatever, but the county is certainly moving towards in-person meetings, even talking about removing some of the barriers that are plastic barriers that are up right now. So what's left, Allison, to be done for live streaming, video, microphone, speakers, the whole work? What is left to be done?
So if I may, I believe it's the software component. I think a lot of the hardware is up, but it's to get it fully functioning and set up on the software needs to be implemented into our computers and that type of thing. So we are trying to get that done as quickly as possible, but there's just been delays.
Okay, hopefully it'll work.
Thank you, Councillor Straight.
Yeah, thank you very much, Reeve Dobson. Allison, is there a way that we can record the meeting, then upload it to YouTube after? It may not be live, but at least it gets uploaded so people can view it at a later date there.
Chair, through you. So we can look at alternative solutions, and it may be, I know even on the county ones, like they're kind of a bird's eye view, so you don't really see everyone's face as close up as this, but you still hear the meeting through the microphones. Yeah. And you know what's being said. So we could look at something like that through a computer and a speaker set up until such time that we are completed. We could trial and error some things here in the office as staff to see how it sounds, to see what we could set up until our council chambers are completed. Absolutely.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Deputy Reeve Vandermeer in that regards. I'd like to get back to the in-the-face meetings, and I think that allowing the people to come, the public come and sit there again and ask questions they want to ask. That's great. But I also know that there's a lot of people that watch the meeting afterwards. They may not watch it live, but they go back on YouTube later on and they do view it.
Yeah.
So if we can record it and upload it to it, that would be great. And that's a great patchwork to get us until we get the internet and everything else up and going. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Yes, Councillor Jennings.
I'm not the technical person, but I thought we had done something prior where we had the laptop in the council chambers to try and do some sort of streaming. Because I agree. I think that going back in person is fine as long as we can somehow get it to the residents who can see it after the fact. That's fine as well to upload. But I thought we had done something with a laptop at one point prior to us going virtual totally.
Yes, Allison.
It would have been prior to me, Councillor Jennings. So, and I think, and you're saying it did work as well?
It worked. It wasn't the best, but it did work because we
Okay.
tried it. But technical people could probably assist on that one. Jeff, do you
Yeah,
not remember?
I think that we could definitely look at an
Yeah.
option that may not be perfect, but will bridge us. And Councillor Carroll maybe can assist us a bit on that.
Sure you can.
Do you want? Yes, Jeff.
Sure, why not? Yeah, I mean, I can obviously assist. I don't remember. I mean, we've voice recorded the meetings, but I don't remember us. I remember we talked about it because we were implementing going to live streaming and to recording before COVID hit. I mean, that was sort of when we discussed it before it even came up. But I don't.
We
Did
sat
do
around
it
the
on-
horseshoe and the
That's
laptop was on the stick podium type thing looking towards us.
Is that one of our first cracks at getting it up on the face? Like, I mean, I think we streamed through Facebook. It wasn't even through YouTube yet, right? Yeah, I think maybe you were right. Yeah, that's right. And
That's
then we
right.
converted- Yeah. So it did work. I mean, I think,
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, Allison said it too as well. I mean, as long as we have a camera up and doing that until we get it fixed, at least it's recorded and people can hear and listen and make it and it obviously keeps the transparency there. I think we can definitely set that up. And obviously if staff want me to come and play with some technology with them, I'd be happy to do that too as well. So
I just thought you would have remembered that we'd done something because all I remember was there was a laptop on a podium, but how it all worked, I don't know. Because
I remember now, and it was through Facebook. Sorry, I'm interrupting. Yeah, and I think it was through Facebook. Yeah. So I remember that now, and then we helped to get it over to the YouTube side of the world. So it's but
it's an old memory, but it comes back.
There you go.
Okay.
You spurred me. You had me a brain fart for a second. So and I agree. Since I'm in that, I can't wait to get them back and meeting in person and all that stuff. And if we can rickamaroo away until we get the right way, then I mean, at least we're showing transparency, and I think that's the number one most important thing. So,
Deputy Reeve.
No, that's it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so this motion that I have is for the Recreation and the Committee of Adjustment. Okay, so and we have to decide which option then. Allison?
Okay, yeah, so the recommendation that you have, Bill, does leave an option open for council as well, right?
Okay,
That's the option that's left open is for council. The second portion is to relate to the rec and committee of adjustment to be effective immediately. And then the options for council will be, you may even want to amend the recommendation to go in person, whether it's if you're going to go with option one, which it seems like that's consensus, that maybe it may not be effective June 21st, depending on that we can get that in between set up as well. But if we can, it would be June 21st.
so this this motion that I have here, though, the first motion that I have is then that council approve option one,
Mhm.
presented this date, and that council approve the committees of council, such as the Recreation and Committee of Adjustment, to meet in person effective immediately. Can we vote on this one exactly as it is?
You can, and if something happens as far as us not being able to get that set up for the 21st, we will advise council and the public at that time.
Okay. All right. No more questions. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And the next one, I think is also yours, Allison. Sorry, no, the next motion that I have here then is moved by Deputy Reeve Vandermeer and seconded by Councillor Carroll, that council direct staff to bring the draft bylaw. Yes, Allison.
Yeah, so that's me. That's the fees and charges. Item
Okay.
G.
Okay, so I'll hand this back over to you then.
Thank you. So as committee will recall, we did bring forward a report with concerns of the fees and charges bylaw in relation to the rental rates of Rosedale Hall. Management and staff did meet to look over the current fees and charges bylaw, and because it hasn't been updated since 2020, implemented January 1, 2021. There was a couple of changes that we are also bringing forward at this time, but this will be on an annual basis at the beginning of the year. Council will start to see this coming forward and we'll change them and be addressing them. So to go through the bylaw, some of them are very small changes. The administration, the removal of records on a CD-ROM, we don't even have the technology to burn a CD here, so we can't provide something on a CD-ROM to somebody if they were to come in, similar to we don't have floppy disks anymore. So the second item to be addressed is the water sewer. Change the water sewer connection from $50 to $85 fee to allow for 1 hour staff time plus a truck. So the $50 is hardly covering the cost of the staff person. And so we thought that it should be changed to make sure that that staff time is covered, plus a small fee for the use of the truck and fuel to go do that. The next is the kind of big section, the reason why we were bringing back the fees and charges bylaw, and it's in relation to the rental of Rosedale and the rates associated there within. So you will note on this draft that we took out the hourly rate rentals just based on the fact that somebody could rent the hall for $20 an hour for 1 hour, but we have approximately $70 in a cleaning fee. So it just wasn't economical for us. So we've removed the hourly and made minimum half-day rentals of 4.5 hours. So with the bar is 100, without is $75. So it's just slightly covering the cleaning and a little bit extra. So we're trying to keep it to as much of a as low as possible without costing other ratepayers monies to offset the amount that we're not charging. The kitchen rental only was on an hourly basis as well for $10. Again, we still have a cleaning fee because, so we've made the kitchen rental only to a $70 minimum as well for 4 hours and a $15 fee for every hour after that. Just because if somebody's renting the kitchen, they're probably pulling on the 220, which is also more hydro for us as well, and all those good things. So we're changing that. So I guess do you mind if I just ask for any questions in that first part, just because there's kind of so much in the Rosedale rental changing?
Yes, Councillor Jennings.
So on the one that you just mentioned, the kitchen rental of the $70 minimum charge, if that's only going to cover the cleaning cost, as you mentioned, what about then the electrical cost, et cetera, for using the other things?
Yeah, and I think my understanding is whenever they only rent the kitchen, it's only supposed to be the kitchen open. So it rarely happens. I don't know. I think we've had it once or twice for a group doing a bunch of canning of goods. I have no issues increasing that slightly. It's just, I know that council is very supportive of trying to keep them low, cover costs, but encourage people to rent. So I have no issues, and we did speak about that potentially being $100 minimum to cover the cleaning plus some hydro because of it, the couple ovens in there and all those things. So we're open to this discussion.
Yes, Councillor Jennings.
Well, I just look at the half-day hall rental without a bar, which was up to 4.5 being 75. Now, I know there's no security deposit for a kitchen rental, but even if they were equivalent, at least it's sort of an apple and apple.
Sure, it makes it easier for us as well. So then, sorry, Councillor Jennings, so then we'll change the minimum charge. It'll be $75 minimum charge for 4.5 hours, similar to the other then.
My suggestion, but that's up to council, like if they're in agreement, just trying to streamline to make it easiest.
Yep.
We'll put that in as a suggestion for now. Thanks, Karen. Deputy Vandermeer.
Thank you, Reeve, and thanks, Allison. If you look back through the records, there was also a charge for the use of dishes and appliances if they use the kitchen.
It's still in there.
It's still in there?
Mhm.
Okay, and your deposit is still the same amount?
We didn't have a deposit on the kitchen items.
No, but the deposit on the hall itself, I thought there was a $200 deposit
Yep, the $200 deposit will still be the same.
still there. Okay.
Councillor
Thank
Straight.
Yeah, thank you very much, Allison, for taking a stab at this. That's great. And I think this is a great spot to start and work forward from. I guess the only thing I'm going to go back to what Deputy Reeve Vandermeer just brought up was about the dishes and all that kind of stuff. Before we start charging any rent for using them, we better get some, because the pots and pans and everything else that's there is pretty nip and tuck at this point in time. I don't know if you could, I don't know, not 200% sure if you could make an omelet if you wanted to. So it would probably be good to get some utensils and pots and pans in the at the hall.
After the Easter breakfast, we could do an omelet.
Yeah.
So Councillor Jennings, I did see your hand go up.
No, I was in agreement to, if council was in agreement to my suggestion, that was all I had said earlier. So
Okay, yep. Okay, then that's fine for now. You can go on, Allison, for the next.
Okay. So the next section is.
Sorry. Allison, sorry, what my hand was, but I think Ian touched on it too about an inventory, because of the fact that there had been items in our kitchen that mysteriously disappeared. So when rentals go to occur, that there's an inventory before and after so that we can track it.
So just to follow up on Councillor Jennings, so because of the Easter event, we did purchase some appliances, like smaller appliances, griddles, those type of things. That is our intent, is to do a checklist of what we have now. And as we build, as Councillor Straight said, as we start to build some of those items, that we make sure what's in there. Because I'm assuming that things have found their way out of the building at some point, whether mistakenly, those type of things when people are renting. So because we've already put a couple $100 into some new little items, we want to make sure that we keep track of those things. So we are going to do that as well. So the only other thing that, so we had that's the resident. Now the non-resident is very similar to the other side. And so with Councillor Jennings' recommendation, it would be for us then to change the kitchen rental to $85 minimum charge for 4.5 hours, similar to the change on the residential side.
I don't hear any opposition to that, Allison, so I believe that suggestion of yours, Karen, is great.
Perfect. So the only other note that I kind of had stated, and I think speaking about the earlier this evening, maybe kind of also hits to this point, is that our community group section for 4 free events per year is kind of vague. So we may want to put into our agreement for when we bring this bylaw back in early 2023, to make note of maybe specific groups that are exceptions of this for free event, or actually list the groups that would receive it, because we are starting to get people contacting us from various groups that maybe don't exactly fit this, or maybe what council maybe was thinking, and they're asking for the for free events as well. This is more just a comment and note for maybe for council to think about for whenever we bring it back in about another 6-7 months.
Yes, thanks, Allison. And maybe if I could suggest too, when we do review this once a year, it doesn't, I don't think it hurts to do a little bit of a comparison with some of the neighboring halls, because we don't want to be too much above or too low either. Because if we're too low, then that's why we're going to get a lot of people calling us. So it certainly doesn't hurt to compare to other halls.
Absolutely,
Yes.
Chair. And at the last meeting, Councillor Jennings did request that I do that. And I did reach out to a bunch of the clerks group, and I did receive pricing back. And we are still, we're competitive in the sense that we're not way below everyone else. In the municipal world, we're on par with some of them, and then other ones that have bigger venues or more money and those type of things. But I think for the size of our municipality, we're on track with other municipal community groups. So from that perspective, the next item that we're looking to take out is the multi-occasion renters, just for that whole kind of section, in the sense that we weren't cost recovery in the event, and we were starting to get a lot of people who just wanted every Friday, every Saturday, every Sunday. So with the recommendation and the discussions that we had, and some feedback actually from some of the public that were on the meeting that evening, to maybe make available the weekdays at a better rental rate if we're looking at doing that. So similar to other municipalities, there are some that have a reduced rate, or they have a stipulation that you're responsible to ensure that the hall is relatively clean when you leave, and that we put in a note that if it's not left, that we will take $35 per hour out of your deposit to pay for the cleaning. If you're getting that kind of a $40 for the day, if you're getting that kind of a deal, that in the event that you leave in a mess, we're taking a cleaning out of your deposit. So it's just for discussion. It's to open it up to still leave something available to the public that is still accessible and available, but not so much that it's on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday event.
Any comments, questions? I'm just thinking about this, Allison, as you mentioned it. Like, I certainly agree that we have to be very careful that we don't lock people into like every Friday night or every Saturday night. I guess my only thought would be that, let's say, for instance, someone has been renting it, say, once a month on a Friday night, let's say, and they want to and they look at, or they call us up, and we haven't rented it, say, the second Saturday or the third Saturday. And if they call us up a couple days before and they want to use it, then rather than seeing it left open, then it makes sense to rent it. But I think we have to, most importantly, we have to ensure that somebody's not going to rent it every Friday or every Saturday or whatever, because then it just eliminates people who want, others who want to. So it's just a thought there. Yes, Deputy Reeve.
Yeah, thanks. On that thought, Reeve, Allison, how much of a notice do we get someone wanting to rent the hall for a Saturday wedding or a Saturday night birthday party or something? Do they usually 2 weeks, 3 weeks ahead of time, or?
Chair, through you, it could be a year in advance. Most of the
Okay.
time for big birthday parties or weddings, it's months in advance that they're getting booked
Okay.
for those type of things.
So on the Reeves idea, then, if a group, and I know you mentioned last time there was a group that wanted to run it every Sunday. So if we knew that Sunday, the 26th of June, it was going to be rented, we could let them know, sorry, you can't have it that day. You can have it on the Monday or something. Would that work, or would that get too complicated?
So if I may, Chair, the problem with that is that they're pre-booking them, so nobody can even call and book. So right now, if somebody has it pre-booked, we had to go ahead and put in times even for October for our recreation committee and December for ourselves for our Christmas dinner, because otherwise the group that wanted it every Saturday, it would have already been booked, and we hadn't even booked ours in yet.
Yeah.
So it makes it difficult. I think that there are some municipalities that have like a last minute stipulation that maybe we could look at a last minute stipulation that the full day is at the cost of a half day rental, so that, you know, it's being utilized. But really to go below that $75, it's costing other ratepayers for somebody to use the building.
And like, I certainly wasn't suggesting, you know, like pre-booking, that's for sure. I was only suggesting, say, a last minute call. And even if it was a last minute call, I still wouldn't be suggesting a reduction in the cost. It's just that I was only suggesting mostly that if it was sitting open and somebody who really tried to pre-book, and I don't suggest that we do that at all, you know, on an ongoing basis. But I wouldn't mind seeing them able to rent at the very last minute. But again, I guess the thought there is it too complicated? Yes,
Yeah,
Allison.
And Chair, through you, I think whenever we speak about pre-booking, we're not talking about the early on that books one day a month for each month, right? Like that's not substantial use. We're talking about the every Saturday or every Sunday that we were getting requested on. That's more what we're talking about. If there's a group that wants to hold a euchre night once a month, or, you know, every Monday night, obviously they would fall into the rental group for during the week. But like those are not it's the every single Sunday or every single Saturday that we're trying to deal with.
Exactly, and that's exactly where I was at. Yes, pause.
Yeah, just another follow-up, Reeve, if I may. Allison, what about in the situation where someone's renting the hall on a Saturday night and they want to come back the next day to clean up? What's the status?
So note number 1 is going to address that, because we have not really addressed that. People were not aware that technically their rental was done at 12:01 a.m. And if you have weddings and events and then somebody is renting it Sunday morning first thing. So note number 1, just down below, states that a full day rental begins at 12:01 a.m. on the day of the rental. So if you rented it Saturday, it starts at 12:01 a.m. on Saturday and is completed at 11:59 p.m. Saturday. So if someone wishes to rent the facility for an event that will go into the following morning, an additional half rental will be required. So, and the reason for that is because we don't want to book somebody in on a Sunday and the person from Saturday night, because we're as staff aren't following up Saturday night at 2 a.m. or Sunday morning at 2 a.m. So we want to make sure that we don't book somebody in Sunday morning and they show up and there's wedding decorations and things haven't been removed. So that's kind of why we put that in there.
Okay.
Yes, Councillor Jennings.
Then on point number 2, it says that events with alcohol, live music, or sports will require additional insurance. That's up to the renter to get on their own. It's not through the township, correct?
Correct. So the township currently, I think there was some miscommunication. I know whenever I was here previously as a treasurer, we went to RFP for insurance. we added the tenant liability for any events that are held there that don't have alcohol, don't have sporting events, and don't have live music. So those renters don't need any additional insurance. But if you have any of the other three, you do, as the renter of that facility, because you have a liability, you have to purchase that insurance and provide it to us. So most people are very understanding of that. I think it's becoming more and more common in the community halls. So the last note that we've also put in is that the facility will be opened half hour in advance of the event unless prior arrangements have been facilitated with the township, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So sometimes we get a wedding for a Saturday. If the hall's not booked on a Friday, the township has been good to allow them advance entry into the hall to set up if it's not booked. So those type of things we want to make sure that we're aware of in advance, because if we're not, the hall could be booked on Friday. So we want to make sure that that's documented and known.
That's it then, Allison?
That's it for right now on that section of the fees and charges. So if I can have consensus on the change that Councillor Jennings brought forward for the kitchen rental for both the resident and the non-resident, just changing it to the $75 minimum for 4.5 hours and to $85 for 4.5 hours, then I will make sure to address when I bring that back at the next meeting.
Yeah, I'll just go around quickly to get consensus. Karen? Jeff? Claus?
Yes.
And Ian? And myself. Yeah, you have consensus.
Okay, so the next item is under roads. So it's the identification number, your PIN, your civic sign. So there's been an item included for replacement of signs to pay for the sign and the hourly labor cost to install it. And we've actually included labor costs into the fees and charges as well later on. So it's on the next page. So the public works manager was good enough to go through his and add in some of the items that we did not have in our fees and charges bylaw for an hourly charge out that we do charge to like the city of Ottawa and places that we have agreements with for winter maintenance and summer maintenance. So we've added in the hourly rates with an operator, as well as put in the hourly rate for an equipment operator, again, and a lead hand. Those are more so in the event that we have to do replacement signs and those type of things, that wage is hourly plus employment benefits to ensure that everyone is being charged based off of an equal fees and charges fee. So I guess, well, Steve is still on if there's any questions in relation to those.
Councillor Jennings.
Just the question on the replacement of the 911. That's not because of other damage caused, or what is that? Like if, for example, the one that's on my lawn is no longer legible because it's just peeled from the number of years that it was installed by the township, that's my cost to replace it? Or is it if I've damaged it, I replace it?
So maybe Steve can speak to it a little better, but in the event that it's damaged, you would replace it yourself, obviously, unless it was us that you could prove that we damaged it. And I'm not sure about maybe he can speak to that, about the, if they're just not able to be read.
I think some of them, sorry, I think some peel, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, the intention with this one would definitely be more or less for somebody that's completing snow plowing operations by themselves and they're taking out their signs. Not so much, I mean, if somebody's, due to natural causes, their sign has faded, I don't believe we do have stickers in stock. That is something we can redo. But it's more or less for the sign and post as one that's been damaged.
or even, Chair, through you, even I think aesthetically, if somebody, you know, if they're post, because they're white, if they're peeling and you just don't like it and you want a new one, that would be up to you to cover that. So if there's no further questions on that one, the only other item in that chart is to change road superintendent to public works manager, as that is the position that we know it as now. The other item in the paragraph below that came out was entrances to the township road must be constructed in approved locations before an occupancy permit can be issued. So we can withhold a building permit. We can't withhold an occupancy permit as per provincial legislation. So yes, we can withhold the building permit, but if we've given a building permit, we cannot withhold an occupancy permit. So we just wanted to take that out for clarification. The CBO had noted that and requested it come out. And that's it for the fees and charges changes for this meeting until next year.
I have a question, Alan. Regarding signs along the roadways, where people come and ask if we would allow or install a sign. A couple examples. If you have, like, let's say for horses walking on a road, or cattle crossing, or children playing, and so on, what's the policy there? I know that sometimes people do ask if we would install, and I do remember a few years ago that happening, and I'm not sure what exactly the policy is there, but I think at the time we said, well, yeah, we'll install it for a certain price or for the cost of the sign or something, but just that's my general question. Yes, Steve?
Yeah, so currently in the user fees and charges, any signage like that is paid, it's usually pay. So if somebody does want a sign, they pay the cost associated with it before we'll place a sign up.
But do we install it?
That's
and
correct.
is there a cost to the person when we just install it?
That's correct, Reeve. It's a cost for the material and labor to install the sign.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, I think that's everything on this then. I do have a motion. It was moved by Deputy Reeve Vandermeer and seconded by Councillor Carroll that Council direct staff to bring the draft bylaw presented this date to be approved at the June 21st, 2022 council meeting. All in favor? It's carried. And again, thank you to both you, Steve and Allison, for all of this in-depth work. You know, it's a complicated thing, and we seem to keep, you know, updating it and changing it and reviewing it. But eventually, I think that each time we do it, we improve it. So thanks for all of your work, and we'll look forward to bringing it back to the next meeting. So we're moving on to the next one, and it's also yours, Allison, on the Otf Capital Grant.
Thank you, Chair. So the Otf Capital Grant is open again right now. It's a similar grant to actually what we applied to for Rosedale last time that got us the play structure and the new flooring and all those good things. So we are eligible to apply. It's up to $150,000. You do see the eligibility that we have. Staff we've met and we've brainstormed on some items when we were reviewing the fees and charges as a group, similar for this. And some items that came forward were revamping reconstruction of the walkway to ensure accessibility all the way to the playground and potentially include an accessible swing. Install an accessible door with security upgrade for entry of renters with a fob. The facade, I know that there has been some discussion about the facade on the front of the building, kind of giving it a bit of a facelift, that type of thing. potentially a generator at the hall in the event of the emergency that we had with the windstorm and us opening up the hall. It may be beneficial for us to have something there. It's not our alternative location for emergencies, but if we can get a grant and it funded, it may be a good option to apply for as well. Staff, in the next little notice that we have that's coming up after this, is that we are going to be successful in a little bit of funding to get internet at the Rosedale Hall. It won't be sufficient to bring, the application was for fiber optic. We're only going to receive just slightly over $50,000, I believe. That will not get us fiber optic, not even close to get fiber optic up to Rosedale. So we're going to try and look at alternative solutions to try and utilize that money when the time comes. The agreement hasn't come to council. Doesn't need to be a big discussion for this evening. I just want you to know that we don't need to include that probably in this grant application, because we have something that's going to be coming to discuss and to look at options for that. So we wanted to bring this forward to council to see if you agreed with some of the items we brought forward, where we wanted to focus our application as far as meeting these requirements, because we do have to get quotes to submit with our application. So we have to get on those things. So we're just looking for council's thoughts.
So Councillor Straight first.
Thanks again, Allison. These are all great ideas, and I guess a couple of things that I wouldn't mind adding is maybe an upgrade to some of the kitchen appliances that are there. Maybe they come up to gas or something like that. Be a little bit more modern than what's there now. I guess convection ovens. Maybe some people that do catering might utilize the area a little bit more. Not 100% sure, but I think everything else that you have on there is great. Maybe a new fence around the outside of it or something like that. Get rid of the old pipe one that's sitting there that's maybe not as appealing. Some stuff like that, but you're on the right track for sure. And I think that just on note, the last time that I was there, and maybe worthwhile getting a roofing company in to inspect the vent stacks that are coming up through the roof. I think that you're seeing some blistering in the ceilings and stuff like that. And if you go outside and look, compare where the blisters are, I think that that there's some sealing around the steel roof, around the vent stacks that may have to be resealed. So just so you're aware. But thank you very much for the report, and these are all great initiatives, and I hope we can get some more money.
And I've got two more people there, but just a couple of quick questions first there, Allison. And this may be just adding a couple of things also, but that wall that it's about 4 feet high that goes along the walkway, like under the roof there. As I recall, now I'd have to go and look at it again, but as I recall, it might be starting to deteriorate. The cement work might be starting to deteriorate there. So I'm just wondering if somebody could look at that. And then also in past meetings, we had some discussions about some problems with the vandalism and at the back, and kids being able to climb up onto the roof easier. So is there something there that can be done to prevent that? Yes, Allison?
So during our last health and safety inspection, not the last one, I guess it was last month that I went on with the committee. There's an easy access to the roof, and that's why that's happening. So we have noted that access needs to be taken away or dealt with. So we do have a plan in place to fix that, and it would be minimal cost, and staff is going to be working at fixing that and taking away that issue. Again, in the application, we are looking at a potentially better security upgrade. So we have gotten pricing for some different security options. So that would all be kind of in this application to try and address as well. I think lighting is a big issue too. The more lighting, the harder it is for people to kind of sneak around or to potentially vandalize as well.
Okay, and just two more quick things that maybe I'll throw out there, just as a suggestion, and then we may have to pare this down, but either more or better picnic tables. That's one. And the other that I'm going to throw out, but this might be something that we would or could or should go ahead and do anyways, but that's insulating the wall, I guess I'll say the northwest wall, between the main hall and the storage. As some of you remember, it was pretty darn cold in that hall. And all you have to do is go in where we keep the chairs and tables, and you know why that it's cold, because that wall has absolutely no insulation whatsoever. And that would be a very easy fix as far as I'm concerned. You just simply stud it with whatever 2x2 and insulate it. But anyways, again, I'm not sure whether we can go ahead and do some of this work as an upgrade or maintenance or not, but I just wanted to throw that out. I have two more people. Next, I saw Deputy Reeve and then Councillor Jennings. So Deputy Reeve.
Thanks, Reeve. Some of the suggestions I was going to make have already been mentioned, but the one that comes to my mind, you were talking about having internet service at the hall. I believe we did hook some kind of internet service up there a number of years ago. I know there's a cable still hanging there in that back window. And there was a computer set up there at one time. As Ian has said too, things do walk away from that hall quite easily. I don't think it's there anymore, but there is some kind of cabling there, Alison, for internet service. So
okay.
That's the very back.
Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor Jennings and then back to you, Ian.
Just on the topics, when you talk about the safety and there was talk about the walkway to the play structure, et cetera, what about the discussion about fencing for safety of the kids running towards the road?
Yes, Alison.
So we do have some funds in the budget this year. We have that portion of fencing purchased. We also applied to the FCC Agri-Spirit to do another additional 125 feet out in the front there to fence in the children. So we will know in August if we got it extended funding to help, another 25,000 to help with that as well. So because we have an application in, potentially maybe we'll even hear before this is finally due, but we do have another application in for up to 25,000 in fencing as well.
Thank you. Councillor Straight.
Yeah, you know what? Hats off to Allison, as I don't know that we've ever applied for so much funding in such a little time. So thank you so very much. It seems you're on the ball with trying to get us all the free money you can. So thank you very much for that. But I do agree with what Deputy Vandermeer has said. There used to be a computer there that was hooked up, and I don't know where it ever went to, but there was a computer there that was hooked up. I do believe that had access.
Yep, there was.
Councillor Carroll.
I guess my question would be, is it dial-up? Because I mean, the internet is a big issue. That's probably what it was. So I mean, dial-up is not internet, especially in today's day, unfortunately. And on the other side too, as well as I mean, I agree with all the suggestions. I'm glad when we bring up the fencing that Allison has a diverted plan for that too as well. And I mean, security is obviously one thing we talked about before too as well. I mean, all of those things are in that grant, which I think is right up the alley of what we were looking at. So I think that's right on the right page. So.
Okay. Anything else then, Allison, for now?
Nope, I think if council's okay with that, then the recommendation, I did leave it open. So I guess we would just put to include the items discussed this date.
Okay. I'm just adding this in here. So this motion was moved by Councillor Carroll and seconded by Councillor Jennings, that council approve staff to apply to the OTF grant for Rosedale Hall to include the items discussed this date. All in favor? And that's carried. Moving on to the next one, that's the information item. That was the CCRF.
Yeah, so Chair, through you, this is just an update, an agreement's going to be coming. We have been notified that we can talk about it. So an agreement will be coming. The original application was for 95,000 to bring fiber optic into the township office and over to Rosedale. The township office was not included in the funding that we're going to be receiving. It was just the fiber optic over to Rosedale. Just based on the costing of fiber optic, it'll be hundreds of thousands of dollars, not 50,000. So we're going to try and work within this and see if there's other options available to us. I know that Councillor Carroll had some good ideas as well, potentially to get some internet there. So we will work on what we can do to try and get internet to that facility at a reasonable cost and potentially within the grant funding amount.
Thanks, Allison. Now, this motion, I feel maybe should be just a little more specific, as
Sure.
it only reads that council accept this as information.
It can be that the council accepts the CCRF Township of Montague letter as information.
CCRF. So that council accept this CCRF.
Township of Montague letter.
Oh, yes. Yes, okay. For information. Okay, and did I say that? Yes, maybe not. That was moved by Councillor Jennings and seconded by Councillor Straight. The council accept CCRF Township of Montague letter as information. All in favor? Okay, and that's carried. That's a great discussion, these last two, from everybody, from the staff and all of council. So congrats to everybody for this. We're moving on. We have no reports of committees, and there are no petitions, motions, notice motions, unfinished or other business. And before we adjourn, do we have any questions from the public? Yes, Allison.
I do have a question from the public.
Yes.
The question is, the capital grant project supports better use of technology. So can installing internet at Rosedale Hall be added to the wish list? So I think we did address that in our conversation this evening, unless council wants to elaborate.
Yeah, I believe you're correct, unless there is any comments. Yes, Jeff.
I do like to elaborate on this question when it comes up, because it's one of those things where, once again, to make sure that people understand it, if the opportunity, I think, to put an internet line there that offered a speed that was suitable, that was more than 3 megabits per second, I stress on that, because if you put 3 megabits per second in a community space, it will not serve the public at all. It will actually cause more complaints. So we need to bring in, obviously, an internet that's a higher speed than that. And to make sure that that's just not available in that area. If it was, I think all the council will be fully agreeing on putting it in. But that's why we're looking at every opportunity. And I think just what Allison had concluded before too as well, that we're trying to find other ways around that. So I think as long as we keep, like, the public understands that it's not that that it's not wanted, it's literally not feasibly possible now. We're doing everything we can to try to find a way to make that work. So just the public understands that too as well. So yeah, perfect. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Carl. Any other questions?
That's all I have. Haley, do you have any questions on your side? So Haley has no questions either.
Okay, thank you then. Then we have a motion to adjourn, and it was moved by Councillor Straight and seconded by Deputy Vandermeer, that the committee of the whole meeting do now adjourn at 8:01 p.m. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, good night, everybody, and thanks for everything.
Night,
Right,
thank
well,
you.
Meeting, thanks, bye-bye.
Make sure